it is as if we simply cannot cope with the time, and we cannot adjust all the services that are truly required for the human beings that we are actually holding in this earth. And therefore we got to be very cautious, particularly the young people. I think United Nations have rightly put, in 2015 about the Sustainable Development Goal, which we are going to discuss a little bit today. But before that, we know that, well, they were also working in Millennium Development Goals, the MDG goals. What was the achievement in the MDG goals? We all know that there are a few targets globally, and most of the responsibilities in the MDGs were given to the government of different countries throughout the world, that as if it is the problem of the government, and government has to resolve all the issues that are truly important, and they were actually prioritizing some of the very vital issues, like, Orko has already mentioned a little bit. So those things have already been, resolved, or it is put together aside. In 2015, the United Nations again came back to General Assembly, and they were thinking that, well, this is not something that actually we should address. We have to actually go for a holistic approach so that we can actually resolve all the issues that are truly important for all the countries, and all these issues that are truly very vital for whole world or earth, in order to keep this earth alive. Because the way we human beings are creating problems one after one, as if we are the one actually putting this earth into trouble, and then all of a sudden this earth is going to actually destroy. And therefore it was very essential for the global thinkers, the global leaders, has to think about that. What are the real problems? The real problems, we all know them. We all know that we have put the whole earth into an environmental serious risk of climate change and all sort of health issues, health hazards, environmental degradations, air pollutions. All these things are actually putting us into a point that as if we simply cannot hold our own habitants in a lively manner. And therefore it is very essential to target for few very vital things that we have to address on, and we have to actually working on. There was one disadvantage with the Millennium Development Goals, that when they have taken, the global leaders were thinking about the Millennium Development Goals, and they are taking initiatives country after country and the whole world, they were not thinking about the young people. They were not even thinking that how they should actually engage the young, innovative youth minds in the movement of the Millennium Development Goals. Pretty much, government has taken their own initiatives, and they have targeted few things in terms of the infant mortality and addressing other issues they have been able to achieve in many parts of the world. But one very vital thing is the young youth, that the young people, they are going to represent this earth a long period of time. They are the one, they have to actually fix all the troubles and problems. They are the one, they are going to also shape their own future and also the world for the future generation. And then it was a heavy emphasis have been given to the youth bodies, that they should be put together with the movement of the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm going to talk about all the Sustainable Development Goals individually. Many of you know all those things, and most of you know that these are something that once you Google, you can also find out. There are 17 goals. But before that, I would like to also talk about few sentences, few things to all the young audience. Whenever I, meet young people, these are something that always, bothers me to talk about few things that I believe that young has to understand that what is their responsibility for this, earth. Apart from the entrepreneurship, apart from the businesses, apart from the self-gain or our, profit-making world that we all are thinking about, our own career, own business, own thing, young people has to understand few things, particularly this generation of the young people, those who are in between, or those who have born after 1985 or 1990s and then later on. So most of you are at the age of, between 25 to 30s, I believe. This is a generation throughout the world, what we call the millennials. The millennials generation is totally different than the earlier generation of the same age. Their mindset, their thought process, their brains, and even this generation, even if they look towards something, they see totally different thing. And that's what we really have to understand. In order to guide these young millennials, the planners, the politicians, the leaders, the countries, the mechanism, or even the society's mechanism, everybody has to understand and agree on one thing, that in order to lead this generation of the young minds, the leaders has to also change their way of thinking. And there were huge gap. Actually, we see the leaders of the world, or a country, or a community, or a society, and the mindset that a generation that is sitting in front of me. I can understand it because I myself is always involved with the young people. My whole life, my career has been with the young people. So we were studying the features, the characteristics, the thought process of the young minds, because I started my university teaching in 30 years back, okay? And I have been teaching in the university, always interacting with the young minds. And we have seen even the generation of our age when we were at your age, and now this generation is totally different. Their thought process, their way of doing things. And that's why I always try to emphasize these things for the decision makers, for the political leaders, for the leaders, those who are running the show in the country, no matter it's the corporate leaders or political leaders or social leaders, they have to understand that they are leading a totally different kind of generation. A generation is so potential, a generation with all sort of creative and innovative minds, and these are the generation, they are not only restricting themselves by simply looking into a single problem to solve in a single way. They are always believing that for a given problem, that I can solve that problem in many different ways. And that is the unique part of this young youth, that they have so much creativity. For a given problem, they always find a different way of solving those issues and problems. And that is where is our gap between the leaders versus those who are running the show in the ground level. And we want to see that there has to have a match among the top leaders, the decision makers, so that the decision makers, they understand these are the creative minds. I can always give them fund to do whatever social entrepreneurship or business they want to do, because I have to have that sort of belief that he is a change maker. He can change things, all right? And that sort of trust is very important. And I, as a teacher, I understand it. I see the student, and they are so creative. Even in our time, in the university life, when I was a student in the university in 1980s, at the very early 1979 to 80 and 81, 83, 84, I was a student like all of you in the university. we were not thinking, okay? We were not thinking beyond the classroom discussions, okay? Doing something on our own. But now you see that even if you study or if you do one thing, you have also a multiple thought process which you would like to actually utilize. That yes, I know if you are very good in technology, for example, creating some mobile apps, you are thinking that can I do something using my knowledge of software development or a mobile apps, and should I be able to actually design a business model so that I can use that as a business device and that will give me some revenue. And that's why you see that throughout the world, all these successful young entrepreneurs, young minds, they are the one who actually leads now the corporate world, business world. And many of you know some of the very young minds, those who are actually very creative nowadays. I think some of you heard about, how many of you heard about Sundar Pichai? Anybody in this room? Yes? Who is Sundar Pichai?
CEO of Google.
CEO of Google. You see that Sundar Pichai was not even able to be raised in a family of a single room in India. His father and family could not provide him more than a room, okay, to study or pursue his education.